The poem "The Soul Selects Her Own Society" is written by Emily Dickinson, and today I will I will do a general introduction of it and analyze some of its features and finally give a summary. So this poem is a highly Dickinsonian poem, as you could see from its the dashes and the capitalization. It talks about a feminine entity called the soul through a persona, a first-person narrator that is critical of this entity. This poem could be discussing lifestyle choice, and through its multiple literary devices, its the structural features, and its language. So the particular choice of these elements gave rise to a mixture of different tones and styles that help readers perceive the meaning behind this poem. That is, how the author tried to romanticize, while at the same time question the reclusive lifestyle that one might lead, behind which we could see the rejection and isolation and the arrogance that are common to all humans. Now, looking at the structural features, the most evident one would be the title, which is actually selected from the first line of the poem. It is a unique line because of the alliteration present here, and as it highlighted the theme. So these three words, the soul, selects, and society. The soul indicated spiritual issues, while selects symbolized the act of rejection and isolation, while society led the discussion towards comrades and companions. So it served as a concise introduction. And now looking holistically at the punctuations, we could see that the punctuations used here are all dashes, and they are present in all lines but one. So when they are present, the readers could gain from this horizontal line a sense of continuity. But while they are absent at the end of the first stanza, the readers could feel a sense of halt, a surprise, and a sudden change. We could also see some sense of continuity in the features of verse over here, that they have, some caesura after then and unmoved that creates this pause and the serious tone. But it also has all of the lines are open lines, and they are essential to the sense of continuity, which is also supported by the absence of the enjambment. And so to interpret this continuity, we could say that the readers would feel from this continuity a sentimental feeling, but it could be both positive and negative. It could be just joyful or nostalgic. So we would have to refer to the content and to the actual devices used. And so, for instance, and in the beginning, personification. The desire for recluse is personified into the soul, which told the readers of the purity and the sense of loneliness that come along with the life of recluse. And there's also the metaphor, where the door is equated to the opportunity to be loved and accepted or even talked to. So this metaphor describes a very symbolic act, and it gives a mythical feeling. So these two different devices represent different tones that are present in the poem. The first, the personification makes it melancholic, while the other one has a more solemn texture. And so both of them are still related to the notion of rejection and isolation in the poem. Now, but looking at the scansion of the poem, we could see that, it has iambic meters and hard rhymes, A-B-A-B. So they are very regular. So this could mean that it's a merry poem, but it could also mean that it's formal and it's telling a story, like in an epic. So the readers could see from the content, the diction used in the struts and no more have ruled out the possibility of conveying merriness. So instead, we could feel this still solemn and somewhat grand tone from the scansion of the first stanza. Now, moving on to the second stanza, we could find imageries of chariots and emperors, and they represent the admirers. Here, the readers would relate them to the upper class and those who have a higher status. So this could mean that the soul could actually reject these admirers because she has a unique standard for society, and she is also very indifferent, untouched by the outside world. So the particular choice of imageries of these grand images contributed to the general tone. However, it is contradicted by the scansion of the poem, of this particular stanza. we would find subrhymes and anonymous meters at the end of the fifth and seventh line. The irregularity brought to the poem discomfort and sadness, well, to the readers, these feelings, and so it is melancholic, and that is the tone of this stanza. And this is further supported by the highly unusual monometer employed in the 10th and 12th line, and they are conclusive, and so they're somewhat making this poem more grander than before. But in the meantime, they're unusual, so they're also provoking discomfort and makes us doubt about the real attitude of the author on the reclusive lifestyle. In the concluding third stanza, we have a simile and a metaphor, and the simile equated stone to the lack of responses, the lack of communication, while the valves indicate the control over attention. So both the simile and the metaphor emphasized how mechanical and unemotional the behavior of the soul has been. Yet, curiously, instead of valuable things like gold that are also inanimate, the author chose the simile stone, and which could indicate that she devalues the act of the soul, while the existence of a valve indicated that something is being channeled, and it is actually against the forces of nature, against the nature of the soul, to stop paying attention. So here is a conflict, and this conflict has been further supported by a change in the narrator from first person to a third person, and then to a call to action, indicating an internal conflict that actually the author is somehow criticizing the indifference that pervades the entire poem. We could further appreciate this through the language employed by the poem, and by converting it to the prosaic form, we could see some of the interesting words used by the author, such as divine majority, and this is a religious and somewhat studious lexicon, and its connotation would be a respect-worthy crowd. So the readers could picture someone fighting against conventions, which is also somehow arrogant, while at the same time accepting these interesting cues from the word her and the word divine, which suggested a contradicting feelings. And this is continued in this second and third stanza, where there are omissions of words. The prepositions and pronouns are omitted. On one hand, this makes it feel biblical and antique, which suited the grand tone in the second stanza, but there are also ambiguity in the subject, like in the third stanza, and so the ambiguity made us think, could the author be talking to herself and presenting this internal conflict to the readers? That is one of the fascinations of this poem. To summarize, we could say that on the surface, the poem talked about reclusive lifestyle, and it is somewhat pure, solemn and grand, and finally rebellious against the majority. But a hidden line, an implicit section of the poem, were actually telling us how restrained and contained the lifestyle could be. These unconscious struggles were presented in the form of a peculiar choice of dictions and of metaphors, and also the underlying scansion that really enriched the poem. So the sum of these meanings would compel people to rethink on how other humans are being denied, on how a lifestyle choice could be arrogant, and how isolation could change a person's mind. That would perhaps be the lesson from the soul selects her own society. I have also attached here a glossary containing these slightly unusual words used in this poem. So here they are. And also the sources that I have been using, Merriam-Webster, and some videos that really helped, that read and sang the poem out loud. So this is the end of the IOC presentation. Thank you for listening.